Welcome to episode 77 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. The Savage Curtain.
In this week's episode, Kirk and Spock must team up with avatars of historical figures and do battle against some of history's greatest villains at the behest of a lava monster. With the two officers paired with men they idolize, can reason overcome malice? Or must they stand and fight for what they believe in?
What I propose is that I circle around to their rear, while you two provide a frontal assault. It should be sufficiently violent to cover whatever I do.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
I am okay today, Gerry. How are you?
Sufficiently violent.
Are you?
Yeah.
Is your rear covered?
Won't be for long. Oh, okay, never mind.
Indeed. What did you think of today's episode?
Arena light, or as you might say, arena shite.
That's what I've put in my notes. Arena 2. This time it's personal.
Okay. It wasn't bad, to be fair.
I'm pretty sure that this version of Abraham Lincoln actually showed up in one of the Lego movies.
Did it?
Flying around in his chair.
Okay. I'll take your word for that.
I think the first one.
Right.
It's better than the last couple, but not much.
No.
In fact, I could be talked out of that position quite easily.
I'll try my best.
Yeah. Socials, or should we go straight in?
Socials.
At Trek Podcast, you'll find us there on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. You'll find our episodes on our website, astartrekpodcast.com, and on YouTube each and every week. You can leave your thoughts there and we may or may not reply to them.
Before we start, I have been overdosing on Shatner the last week or so.
What have you been watching?
I've listened to two of his books.
Okay.
The Shatner Rules, and the other one was Star Trek Memories, I think.
Yeah, I've read that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have watched American Psycho 2.
Okay. I thought you were going to say Miss Congeniality 2.
No, American Psycho 2, which is terribly regarded. Although I think, in fairness, it's a lot to do with it being called American Psycho 2 when it's nothing really to do with American Psycho.
That would be silly.
Yeah. Mila Kunis, she was in it.
Is that the extent of your Shatner immersion? You don't normally go a full week without a TJ Hooker episode.
I've been that goes without saying. I watched what was I watching? The Eyes of Betty Morgan. I don't know what it's called. Eyes of Laura Mars. No, that's another thing. But no, I have started to watch, a bit late to the game, but have thoroughly enjoyed it. I've watched the first 10 episodes of Shit My Dad Says.
Yeah, it didn't run for very long, that one.
It didn't. I'm surprised. It's quite witty. It's quite well written.
Yeah.
It's a good one to have on in the background. He's quite funny in it, to be fair.
Fair enough. He was good when he showed up in Third Rock from the Sun as well. I quite liked him in that show.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's brilliant in Boston Legal, which is full of Star Trekky people.
I watched one episode of that, but you told me I had to have watched the...
Yeah, you need to go back and watch The Practice for 10 seasons.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
No, you don't need to. I never watched any of The Practice. Okay. This is where you find out where James Spader came from.
Right. So yeah, I'm full of the shat this week.
All shut up.
Let's crack on.
We start in your favourite place.
Toilet.
The bridge.
Okay. Yeah, they're orbiting a planet as a bemused Kirk is told by Spock that readings indicate carbon cycle life forms, which apparently is impossible under the current conditions.
Yeah, because the planet appears to be entirely composed of molten lava, or at least the surface.
Sulu is asked to do a scan of a specific area, and from this it would seem there is a considerable civilization.
Well, at least there's enough power being generated to indicate a considerable civilization. But fortunately, McCoy shows up to tell them that they're all wrong, their systems are wrong, and he knows better.
Yeah, a bit of a pain.
Out of his lane.
Yeah, he's very aggressive about it. He sticks his beak in, but it's not...
Yeah, on the one hand, you've got Sulu, Spock, and all the ship's sensors and computers saying there's evidence of some kind of life on this planet. On the other, you've got McCoy looking out the window and saying, nah, it's all Bernie.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he really does need put in his place. He's been given too much leeway, that's the thing.
The problem is that Spock's been wrong so often now that he's uncertain about his own advice. So he kind of says, yeah, the readings might be inaccurate at this point. Yeah,
I think he suggests to Kirk that perhaps they have faulty readings. And again, McCoy pipes up, claiming Starfleet should forget all about this, as there is no intelligent life down there. I mean, he should just be quiet.
Is there somewhere he needs to be? It's 360 days since his appointment for that girl on the other planet, and he's going to get married up.
Yeah. No one's asked for his opinion here, and his opinion is irrelevant. This is not his area of expertise.
He's not qualified, and he probably shouldn't really be on the bridge.
As usual, Uhura is getting no response on hailing frequencies, and so is told to let Starfleet know of their findings and that they're going to move on to their next assignment.
Yep, Kirk's quite happy to make that order at this point, basically siding with McCoy over the ship's systems.
However, just as they are about to warp out, what happens?
Well, Spock realises they're being deeply probed.
Matron?
And then the planet disappears from their view screen.
Yes, to be replaced by... who? What?
It's a floaty image of Abraham Lincoln.
Sitting in a chair. Yeah,
He's not actually in space. He's not claiming to be in space. He says he's on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a projection of Abraham Lincoln.
That should tell him something about what's going on.
Yes. It kind of does. But
he says hello and apparently knows who Kirk is and insists that he is the real former president.
And then we get the credits on that bombshell.
Back to the bridge. There is a moment of stunned silence before Kirk looks to Spock to give some input.
Fascinating. I have been described in many ways, Mr. Spock, but never with that word.
I was requesting your analysis, Spock.
They did scan us and our vessel, Captain, and doubtless obtained sufficient information to present this illusion.
Illusion? Captain, will you permit me to come aboard your vessel? No doubt you have devices which can check my reality.
We'd be honored to have you aboard, Mr. President.
Do you still measure time in minutes?
We can convert to it, sir.
Then, you should be directly over my position in... there. Exactly. 12 and 1/2 minutes. Until then, Captain.
What is Kirk talking about? They always count in minutes. That's been mentioned in many, many episodes.
It's always mentioned, yeah. We've got 12 hours, 30 minutes left or whatever.
Unless there's some kind of space minutes that aren't based on a 24-hour clock and they just haven't mentioned it yet.
Or they're just being inconsistent, as per.
Yeah, it's a writer who hasn't really thought it through. We'll wonder who that idiot is. We'll find out later on.
They then witness an Earth-like area, 1,000 square kilometres, form on the surface that has its own atmosphere, which Chekhov confirms they will be above in 12 minutes' time.
To the second, what Lincoln predicted. Kirk sends an armed security team down to the transporter room so that Lincoln can receive presidential honours on his arrival, which irks McCoy.
It should irk McCoy. Look, why are you... This isn't the real president. He died hundreds... What are you talking about, Kirk? Just because he looks like him.
I think Kirk's plan is to humour him until they work out what his intentions are. But it is, yes, a big, bold, silly step.
I mean, I think they're going to wear full dress uniform.
Full respect.
Nah.
Scotty's not happy about it when we get to the transporter room.
Yeah, he's arguing about this decision with security whilst wearing his kilt. It's a bit late for that. He's already dressed up.
Yeah.
And thinks that the Lincoln thing is ridiculous. And for once, I'm with Scotty on this.
He is a bit ratty, though, throughout this episode.
Yeah. And he mouths off about their guest. Talks about Robert the Bruce and...
Well, he says, what if it was Louis of France or Robert the Bruce? And Kirk shows up and says they too would receive the appropriate honours.
So shut it.
Yeah.
And he does.
Kirk explains that he doesn't actually believe this is Lincoln, if anyone thought that.
So, okay.
He's just playing along until they learn more about the situation. It's logical.
Yes, he says that when in Rome. But that doesn't really...
I think he just wants to end the discussion here.
He should too, because they're not in Rome.
No.
They're on their own ship.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense that...
No, he's just telling Scotty to leave him alone.
Yeah. Chekhov then communicates through to inform them that he's locked onto something. And after checking, Spock claims that it is a living rock with 4 claws. And
How many claws?
4.
Okay.
Not 3.
Not 5.
We're not going to do the old 4 candles.
No, you've done that in too many episodes already.
And is settling down to completely human readings now.
Kirk therefore asks McCoy to take fresh readings when Lincoln arrives on the Enterprise.
And he also tells security to prepare for a heavy stun as they beam whatever it is aboard.
It's quite interesting that the commercial arm of Gene Roddenberry's business at this point was called Lincoln Enterprises. I wonder if it's a
Was it?
connection.
I was a big fan of Lincoln.
Could be.
To drum rolls and fanfare, the ex-president materialises, and they all stand to attention, showing their respect, apart from the guys that are pointing weapons at them.
Yeah. Full respect, except we're going to shoot you. Kirk reports that they are honoured to welcome him aboard, and Lincoln expresses surprise at the concept of taped music.
Yeah, we should do it. The fact that it's being taped as opposed to recorded. This far in...
And they shouldn't use tapes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I think he's quite impressed with the method of transportation that brought him onto the ship.
Yes, he has Kirk explain how it works and then asks the guards to stop pointing their guns at him.
Mm-hmm. He knows them all by name.
He's learned a lot of information.
And then he is officially introduced to the team, who he talks to, and he's a very good politician. Where I think he speaks to them by their first name.
Yeah.
And politicians are great at doing that. You feel as if you're quite important, and he's really interested in you, but he's actually just brushing you off.
Yeah.
I think he does that. He says, "Yeah, we'll need to catch up. I need to go and speak with Kirk just now. But guys, it's great meeting you. Let's have a pint later on."
But they won't be.
No, he's not interested in them.
Were you concerned for the safety of this Dickerson fellow who's just been introduced?
The who? The what?
The security chief.
Oh.
Dickerson. He's never been in it before. Introduced by name to Lincoln. It's like, he's wearing a red shirt. He's getting introduced early. This is not boding well for this guy.
Yeah, you're surprised that he doesn't end up
squished or turned to lava.
Or rock.
Or left to live with the lava people to learn about their culture.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun.
Now alone, McCoy and Scotty seem concerned over the mineral rock which apparently became Lincoln. Although Scotty points out that there may have been something else nearby that was picked up by the readings.
Well, that explains it.
It would do, yeah.
Neither of them are really quite certain what's going on.
Oh, well, you wouldn't be, would you?
No. We get a captain's log.
5906.4.
He's not sure what this Lincoln avatar is or what it's been made of, but he can't believe it's really Abraham Lincoln, but he seems so real.
Yeah, his demeanour is so right. Well, firstly, how would you know?
Well, this gets explained later on.
Does it?
By Spock.
When he says he's a big fan.
They've created these avatars from Kirk's mind.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
So how could it be anything other than what he expects Lincoln to be like?
Sure, yeah. On the bridge, Kirk impresses Lincoln by comparing how high the Enterprise is against his Union balloons.
Yes, and then Spock impresses him further by measuring things very accurately from far away.
And we then have quite an uncomfortable exchange between Uhura and their guest.
Well, that's one word for it.
Mm-hmm.
Deeply racist.
Massively. But then again, I think Lincoln was.
Well, he certainly wasn't an proponent of equal rights. I would put it that way.
I think history was, up until fairly recently, rewritten to make him seem like someone who was freeing people and freeing slaves, but I don't think any...
It was done for a strategic advantage.
Of course it was, yes. Yeah.
So, are you going to repeat the phrase, or are we just going to skim over? Folk who are watching the episode will know what was said.
I'm not intending to repeat it.
But in any event, so the sort of... It's the kind of thing you would call a microaggression these days, probably.
Okay.
So, Uhura's response to me was a bit unnatural.
Explain.
She says, in our time we've learned not to be offended by words and to take pleasure in what we are, but the way that comes across to me is it's being written from the white guy's perspective. You know, I'm not racist in my heart, so it's wrong of you to take offence to something that I've said just because it's clumsy or racist.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we shouldn't be looking at it from the white guy's point of view.
No.
Because he's the guy who's got the mechanisms, institutions on his side, and therefore isn't harmed or affected by this sort of engagement. So, yeah.
But it's a bit clumsy. It's written in the 60s, so
They're trying to be progressive.
They're trying to be,
and
yes.
It doesn't really work, but okay, give them points for the
Yeah,
effort.
I mean, it doesn't work today, but I think that the intention was good.
Sure. Kirk and Spock at this point explain that everyone delights in who they are without the need to feel superior to anyone, which is a perfectly good position to take.
And then I think Lincoln confuses himself by noting it as a philosophy of what nom?
Which is a Vulcan thing, apparently, which he didn't realise he knew, but he also knows there's a great Vulcan waiting to meet Spock on the surface.
Yeah, although I don't think he can remember his name.
Not at this point.
He then asks to see the engine room, but Uhura interjects to remind him that Scotty has been waiting for them.
Kirk.
In the briefing room for over 2 hours. He's an idiot. If someone says, I'll meet you, let's meet just now, you wait 10-15 minutes.
He just sat there for 2 hours.
No, nothing else to do. So after...
Well, he's not just sat there, he's contacted Uhura and asked what's going on.
Yeah, but he's been waiting for 2 hours.
And she's been waiting for 10 minutes here trying to tell Kirk, which has had to go through this whole experience with Lincoln first.
In any case, he gratefully accepts Uhura as a guide.
Yes, and Spock and Kirk head off to the briefing room.
McCoy and Scotty, they're not happy with having to wait around.
Well, they make it out that way, but what I suspect has happened is they've realised that the meeting's not starting soon, and they've thought, we're just going to sit here, I'm not doing any work.
Yeah, some coffee.
Until they show up.
And Scotty mumbles some nonsense about a haggis, I think.
Yeah, he's talking, the two of them are at it in this scene. But anyway, there's a nice moment to begin with, because McCoy says he'd be the last person to advise Kirk on his command image, and Kirk replies, I doubt that.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that exchange. I thought that was really good.
When they arrive, they sit and listen to the two of them speak for many of us, when he calls Kirk out in believing this nonsense about him being treated as if he actually is Lincoln.
Scotty then says Lincoln died 3 centuries ago on a planet hundreds of light years away, but Spock has to correct the direction he's pointing.
Tell me about that.
Well, he points off and
sorry, yes.
Earth's that way. Yeah.
And Spock is he's also pulled up for not using science to correct his captain.
Yes, he's not sciencing enough, but he says he is sciencing through observation.
That's a bit of a get out.
I'm observing you.
Kirk agrees that he is an alien, and so McCoy and Scotty press on by calling him a dangerous loony. Now, there's no sign of any danger here.
No, but they're concerned that this safe area on the surface might turn out to be lava after all when they beam down.
Yeah, I think they fear it might be a trap.
Kirk and Spock, though, think it's not logical that whoever is behind this would go to such trouble just to kill 2 people.
Yeah, they could easily destroy the entire ship if they wanted to. Spock, though, does accept that they do want them on the planet for some sort of hidden purpose, before trying to answer Kirk's question as to why Lincoln was chosen as the forum to communicate through.
Speculation is unnecessary, Captain. The answer is clear. President Lincoln has always been a very personal hero to you. What better way to titillate your curiosity than to make him come alive for you?
But not only to me, Spock.
Agreed. I, too, experienced his charm. It is a magnificent work of duplication.
But he holds a special involvement to you, Jim. And I think it's interesting, inasmuch as you're the one who's going to make the decision whether to beam down or not.
Don't do it, Captain. The very reason for the existence of our starships is contact with other life. Although the method is beyond our comprehension, we have been offered contact. Therefore, I shall beam down. Mr. Spock, is for you.
Captain, since I was included in the invitation to make contact, I must beam down with you. You're both out of your head.
Aye, sir. And you're on the edge of insubordination.
Would I be on the edge of insubordination to remind the captain that this smells of something happening to him that I might not be able to patch back together again?
Aye. Gentlemen, your concern is noted and appreciated. Mr. Spock, standard dress, tricorders, and phasers. We will guide President Lincoln to the transporter room. We'll beam down immediately.
I have an issue with Kirk's idolization of Lincoln.
Okay.
I find it hard to believe that so many hundreds of years in the future that he would still be the go-to hero in his mind, bearing in mind that even in this episode we've discussed how racism has been all but vanquished. We're in a more utopian society.
Well, I think
There must have been other people.
in 1969, Lincoln might be the only president, apart from maybe Washington, that isn't politically controversial to say he's a good president.
No, I accept that in real life, but I'm talking about the character Kirk here.
Right.
After hundreds of years with so much development and progress in mankind, when we've wiped out racism and we've done all sorts of other stuff,
Yeah.
that Lincoln, for what he's done, comparatively would have been
Sure. But
not quite inconsequential.
yeah. Maybe. I thought that if he's going to be a personal hero to Kirk, they should maybe have seeded that in an earlier episode somewhere.
Oh, but there was no arcs. We weren't thinking about that. It was every week had to be.
It could have been mentioned by someone at some point.
Yeah.
Anyway. The other thing I liked is that McCoy is worried he's going to get Humpty Dumpty syndrome.
Why?
He says he won't be able to put him back together again.
Ah, very good. Down in the transporter room, via communications, Chekhov confirms the destination is still Earth-like, and so all three are beamed down, but worryingly, they discover that their phasers and a tricorder have somehow been left behind.
Yes, and Scotty notes to McCoy that if it is lava, there's no way to bring them back. It's too late.
Why would they leave them with their communicators?
Oh, it's not them that's done it, it's the people on the planet.
That's what I'm saying, but you would just...
Well, they're going to let them use the communicators later on.
Yeah, I don't know. Just to me, it'd be like taking all devices off them.
Yeah. They're obviously very powerful if they can do this.
Yeah. On the planet, they arrive and soon discover their missing items. So Kirk tries to communicate with the Enterprise, but realises that they're being blocked.
Yes, Spock realises this, noting that they are undamaged but not functioning.
Quickly back up in the transporter room.
Scotty and McCoy are trying to contact Kirk and Spock with similar lack of success, and McCoy is becoming increasingly agitated.
Especially when the lights dim.
Indeed. Back on the planet, Lincoln can't explain what's going on, but it turns out that Kirk is now angry with him.
Yeah, his attitude has been changed. He tells him that the games are over.
At this point, Surak shows up, much to Spock's amazement and display of emotion.
Yeah, apparently he's the greatest ever Vulcan.
Number one.
The father of all they became.
Indeed.
I would quite like to have that title at some point in the future. I mean, I'm not sure if it's realistic or not.
You're going to change society? What's your great idea?
Don't know, I haven't had it yet, but listen, there's still time.
Okay.
I just think that it's, you have to have goals. And I think being considered to be the father of humanity going forward might be...
I mean, you're in the second half of your life. Time's running out.
Yeah, you only need to do one or two things. But one good thing. Maybe I'm the person who will rid the world of racism.
How?
Don't know.
By becoming such a figure of hate, and everyone forgets about everything else that bothered them before. Up on the bridge, Sulu notes that all of their systems are going down, and
yeah, how did he get in the captain's chair? He's not captain material.
Scotty's not on the bridge, and
Uhura should be in charge then.
Yeah, we've already been through the chain of command. He asks for a report from all decks, and engineering says they've had to switch to reserve power.
Oof.
At this point, Scotty and McCoy show up, and Scotty has to talk to the engineer and work him through some emergency procedures.
Yeah, I think they try to do a restart, like turn it on
Turn it off and back on again, yeah.
But that doesn't work. So I think Scotty tells them to begin this emergency process. On the planet, Surak does the Vulcan peace sign, tells them to live long and prosper.
Yeah, and Spock is hesitant because he doesn't want to acknowledge this avatar as being the real Surak.
Yeah, he speaks his mind, but there's a nervousness about it when he notes that it's not logical that he can be Surak, though he accepts there is no harm in returning the greeting.
But he doesn't only return the greeting, he goes full blown into "this is Surak" and apologises for his display of emotion, and educates Surak on their... Well, he doesn't educate, but Surak notes now that there's a working partnership between humans and Vulcans, which he's impressed by.
Mm-hmm. I think he also asks for forgiveness.
Yeah, so if he's not going full bore into "this is Surak," then why would he do that?
Kirk, however, is fed up with the charades, but they get distracted when a large rock glows bright red and then turns into a talking rock monster with pincers.
Rocky,
we both independently noted him throughout our entire notes as Rocky. I'm not. Yeah. I mean, we got his name, but I'm not calling him that.
Yeah, we call him Rocky.
Yeah.
So Rocky promises that they will soon have their answer. He calls their planet Excalibur, which is a bit on the nose.
Yep, I think it's the only time I've noted that as well. I'm not calling it Excalibur, it'll be getting called the planet.
Yep. He says that countless are watching, so that's a reference to a bit that didn't make the final script. If you remember back to Bread and Circuses, all the fighting was televised, and it was kind of a dig at network television.
Yes.
It was originally going to be the same idea here, but this is really the only reference to it.
Okay.
He welcomes Kirk and Spock, but Kirk wants to know what he means when he says there's drama about to unfold.
Yeah.
That sounds quite ominous there, Mr. Rock.
It does. I mean, who's going to be the main characters in this drama, yeah? Rocky, he seems a bit offended at Kirk's ignorance.
See, he thinks they've done them a great honour by mimicking their world in this area of the planet.
But Kirk points out that they came in friendship only to be deprived of their instruments, which I think Rocky accepts and says they will communicate with the Enterprise so that they can enjoy the play.
Very much like Arena.
Yes.
We then get introduced to a gang of evil people.
Yes, Rocky clicks his pincers and 4 people appear. Who are they?
Genghis Khan, Colonel Green, I think he's the guy that had Top Shop.
Yep. Professor Plum.
Kalis, the Unforgettable, and Zora.
I have got, Khan, the Colonel, a mad scientist, and the original evil Klingon.
Sure.
Back up in the bridge, we see Scotty and McCoy watching this on the screen as Scotty states the obvious.
Well, in a stunning display of a lack of self-awareness, Scotty says these bad guys are really bad.
Back down on the planet, Rocky then tells them about the competition.
Yes, he's set up this battle between good and evil so that his people can better understand these concepts, because they're just rocks, really. Mm-hmm. All they have to worry about is paper.
He makes it clear what's at stake.
It's a fight to the death.
And if they win, they get to go back to the Enterprise.
Fair enough. Up on the Enterprise, Scotty tells McCoy that they don't have enough power to beam anybody back up, even if they had the opportunity, and they can't beam phasers down.
And Chekhov states that sensors or readings show their opponents are real life forms.
Real human boys.
Yeah.
Except for the girl. Rocky is confused at this point that the fighting hasn't begun.
Yeah, the rules are simple. They can make any weapons they need and use anything that they find lying around, and if they kill each other.
Kirk says he's refusing to participate, and so is Spock.
Yeah, but Rocky says that, you'll change your mind before turning back into a rock.
Indeed.
So a concerned Kirk asks why they're being made to fight, and Spock says it is as explained. He just told you.
Yeah, he thinks it's all genuine. Lincoln reiterates Rocky's position that there's no getting out of this.
The Colonel then approaches Kirk and claims to agree with him and says they only want to leave just like they do.
Yes, Kirk is pleasantly surprised by Colonel Green's approach given his reputation.
Yeah, well, he says that history has painted him in an unfavourable light.
Yes. Meanwhile, up on the bridge, however, the Enterprise crew can see the other 3 villains flanking Kirk's group. Yeah,
and I think they're getting a bit frustrated that they can't warn him.
Yes, then Genghis Khan attacks from behind and the fight begins.
Yeah, the Rocky's watching on again. He's returned to his molten form. And the fight takes place until the bad guys basically run away.
Yeah, the good guys get the upper hand and the evil ones retreat for now, and Kirk is able to check that everyone's life and limbs are intact.
Lincoln's quite pumped. The adrenaline is flowing that he's still got it.
Yes. Kirk, however, thinks that Green was right in what he said, that Rocky is the real enemy.
Yeah, and Spock says they should prepare for another attack.
But Lincoln is then offended by Kirk's use of the word illusions.
Why is that?
Because he says that it would include him.
Yeah, when you say offended, he's got a smile on his face, and Kirk smiles back when he admits it.
Yeah. Surak, however, believes a peaceful resolution would be the best outcome.
But at this point, Rocky pipes up, voicing his disappointment at them not being honoured to teach them, before Kirk, for some reason, lunges at him and gets himself burned.
Yeah, that was stupid.
What's he trying? He's a rock monster.
Yeah, what are you going to do to him?
Strangle it.
He thinks that they need a better cause to fight for, so he allows Kirk to contact the Enterprise. However, unfortunately, Scotty's too busy to take his call.
Is he?
Yeah, well, for a good 5 minutes he speaks to an engineer while Uhura tries to get his attention.
Tell him I'll call him back.
Apparently the emergency is increasing. That's a very meaningless statement.
Yep.
It's more emergency. It's more emerge. No. The deterioration has started, whatever that means.
Yeah, it's something to do with matter, antimatter. Basically, they've got 4 hours until they're all destroyed.
Unfortunately, Scotty can't make out what he's saying because Uhura is talking at the same time. Kirk at this point yells into his communicator like an old man who's angry at a cloud, and Uhura tries once again to get Scotty's attention, but he's still too busy. So Uhura has to explain to Kirk that he'll get to you as soon as he can. There's a red alert.
Back down on the planet, Rocky confirms this to be the case. Unless they defeat the others in this Hunger Games, the Enterprise is going to blow up.
Yes, Scotty does eventually come on the line and explain they've got 4 hours.
I said that.
Did you?
Yes.
You didn't? You said that is the case. You didn't say what was the case.
Nope, I said they've got 4 hours until they're all destroyed.
It's Scotty who says that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
So it had been discussed.
That's
We
fine.
all know.
We'll move on.
Keep up, Ian.
What I want to ask about here, though, is Kirk tries to issue some more orders, and Rocky says, "Now we've turned off the communicators." But can't they hear through the TV screen? They're all watching.
Yeah.
So if Kirk just says, "I'm giving you orders,"
That's
people in the Enterprise.
Yes. So I'm not sure if they can hear, but that's what I thought as well, yeah.
Maybe they just get some music playing, or they bleep him out. When
Yeah.
he tries to
Or it's dubbed.
If he tries to talk to you,
So it's saying something else. It's all cool, guys.
we're fine.
I'm
we're
enjoying
fine.
this fight. It's...
Lincoln notes that history is repeating itself as war is forced upon them. I'm not sure he's quite right in that.
No, I don't think the war was forced upon them at all.
No.
They chose to have a war.
Yeah.
Was it internal?
Yeah.
Anyway.
We got a Scotty log.
We do a supplemental 5906.5. Just a recap, and they now have 2 hours. What have they been doing with this?
The 2 hours have passed. Nothing's happened. Over at the bad guy headquarters,
Yep.
Colonel Green and Kalis the Unforgettable are talking tactics.
And I think they've set traps.
Yes, but Green thinks the pointy sticks that they've fashioned are not good enough. He wants to be able to overwhelm and devastate his opponent.
Yeah, they're also confused by Kirk's team's apparent lack of action.
Yes, Kalis wants to take advantage of this by attacking immediately, but Green says, no, we're not doing that.
No, they want to wait until they have more of an advantage.
Yes.
Over in Kirk's team's HQ.
Yeah, Kirk's now rationalising.
Yeah, he's lecturing Spock about the morality of fighting an illusion.
Yeah, he says it's not immoral because they're not real.
Yeah, okay.
Spock says, but what if they are real? I don't know why he says that. I suppose they feel real, so...
Yeah, Kirk ignores this and instead identifies a strategic defensive base.
Yes, Lincoln is impressed, though, that he also wants to find a weakness in the opposition and attack them. Reminds him of Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah, okay. Before Spock and Surak suggest a different approach.
We don't have much time, Spock.
In my time on Vulcan, we also faced these same alternatives. We'd suffered devastating wars which nearly destroyed our planet. Another was about to begin. We were torn. But out of our suffering, some of us found the discipline to act. We sent emissaries to our opponents to propose peace. The first we killed, but others followed. Ultimately, we achieved peace, which has lasted since then.
Circumstances were different then, Surak.
The face of war has never changed, Captain. Surely it is more logical to heal than kill.
I'm afraid that kind of logic doesn't apply here.
That is precisely why we should not fight.
My ship is at stake.
I will not harm others, Captain.
His convictions are most profound in this matter, Captain.
So are mine, Spock. If I believed that there was a peaceful way out of this...
The risk will be mine alone. If I fail, you lose nothing. After all, I'm no warrior.
The captain knows that I have fought at his side before, and will do so now if need be. However, I too am a Vulcan, bred to peace. Let him attempt it.
You saw how treacherously they acted.
Oh, yes. But perhaps it's our belief in peace that is actually being tested.
I have no authority over you. You may do as you think best.
Thank you. May you live long and prosper.
I liked... I thought maybe it was unintentional comedy there when Surak said, we sent emissaries and they were killed. But we sent more!
Yeah. He leaves to try and implement his strategy, and a less than confident Kirk tells the others to get weapons should he fail.
Yes, get them made.
2 hours have passed. They should have...
Yeah, what have they been doing?
Yeah.
Well, as Kayla says, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Back at Bad Guy HQ, they watch Surak approach, and Green insists that they hear him out.
Yeah, he says... Yeah, he announces that he has come in peace for the benefit of them all. He admits that he speaks for himself, but insists others will accept it if they do.
Yeah, if he reaches a peaceful accord, then he's confident his side will go along with it.
But the Colonel, he's doubtful, thinks it's a trap, and asks Surak what he has to gain if they accept. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, they don't have to fight. And
Nobody dies, yeah.
nobody dies, yeah.
Kalis wants to just kill him, but Green thinks they can use him to achieve overall victory. And then Green returns to Surak, telling him he will try to persuade his comrades of the wisdom of a peaceful approach.
As this is going on, 2 of the team are sent to surround Surak, as the Colonel keeps him talking.
Indeed. Kirk, Spock and Lincoln back at their base are sharpening sticks.
These weapons are garbage.
It's worse than Arena. At least in Arena they were building special traps and dropping massive rocks on people and stuff.
Yeah. Kirk tells Spock that Surak is a brave man.
Yes, Spock notes that men of peace usually are, and gets a bit emotional talking about him.
Yeah, he calls him the father of their civilization. And the image of father is important to Vulcans.
Indeed.
Mothers, not so much. They're just women.
Let's move on. They hear a scream.
An anguished scream.
And Surak screaming for Spock's help.
You know straight away Surak is not the type... A Vulcan and Surak is not the type of guy to scream like a little
Spock
baby.
says this. Kirk's desperate to go out and rescue him, but Spock's like, it's probably not Surak. He wouldn't scream like that, even if it is. He knew what he was getting into.
Yeah. Like, show some respect.
Lincoln proposes a plan that will satisfy everyone's requirements.
What's that? We
We heard it at the top of the show. A full frontal assault from Kirk and Spock while Lincoln sneaks round the back and takes them from the rear. Free Surak on the way, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Kirk says no to this, but Lincoln ignores the order, and as Spock has no objection, he tells them that they must fight at their level, the enemy's level, with trickery, brutality, and finality.
He then says there is no honourable way to kill, no gentle way to destroy. There is nothing good in war except its ending, which amusingly has been circulating on social media for many years now as a genuine Lincoln quote.
Really? Has
Yes,
it?
it has.
Okay. He also admits himself, I mean, I think Kirk's, he's confused that this apparent man of peace is up for a fight, but he, and I thought this was fair. He says, yeah, well, you know, people thought I was quite gentle in that, but I did send 100,000 to their deaths.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Back at the bad guy bit, Green and Genghis Khan see Kirk and Spock hiding behind a rock. They're not doing what Lincoln told them to do.
No.
They're not doing any kind of full frontal assault that's so devastating that it occupies all of their enemies.
They're as strategists, they're crap.
They're leaving him out to dry, hanging him out to dry.
Yeah, so we're on this sort of middle ground, this battleground, and there's a bit of creeping around, and then throwing of rocks and spears. This is a bit shit.
Very.
It's just, I mean, what is this meant to do? A couple of crappy little sticks and a boulder?
Yeah, they're not in any way achieving an advantage. They're not.
Literally, we used to play games as kids when it was more violent. You'd throw bigger stones and rocks more aggressively, and you'd have sharper. You know, that there was terrible.
Yeah. However, Green realises that there's only 2 of them there and sends Zora on a different path.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Lincoln, being very stealthy and crawling along the ground without anything to cover him, finds Surak and...
Yeah, he's trussed up with his back to him.
Yes. He starts talking to Surak about how he will be free soon. However, unfortunately, on 2 counts, number 1, Green and Kalis are right behind him.
Watching, yep.
And number 2, Surak's already dead.
He is.
As we find out when he's untrussed and he falls to the floor. Kalis demonstrates to Lincoln his mimicry skills, which we kind of suspected earlier, and shows he can also mimic Lincoln.
Yeah, and we then see Lincoln walk out and back to Kirk and Spock.
Presumably some time later. At least a few minutes.
Yeah, before collapsing in front of them with a spear in his back.
Massive spear. Not as big as in Galileo 7. That would have been funny.
Yes. And then what follows is a big battle, which is watched over by Rocky, and ends when Kirk defeats the Colonel.
You are the survivors. The others have run off. would seem that evil retreats when forcibly confronted. However, you have failed to demonstrate to me any other difference between your philosophies. Your good and your evil use the same methods, achieve the same results. Do you have an explanation?
You established the methods and the goals.
For you to use as you chose.
What did you offer the others if they won?
What they wanted most. Power.
You offered me the lives of my crew.
I perceive. You have won their lives.
How many others have you done this to? What gives you the right to hand out life and death?
The same right that brought you here. The need to know new things.
We came in peace.
And you may go in peace.
At this, Rocky returns to a rock,
Returns to the stone.
and Spock and Kirk are beamed back up to the Enterprise.
Up on the bridge, Scotty reports everything is working again, and Sulu says they're only half an hour away from warp.
Chekhov has other positive news.
Shields are getting better.
Yeah. Before Kirk asks Spock for an explanation.
We kind of talked about this earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
Spock's conjecture is that Surak and Lincoln were formed from their minds, and since that was their source, they could only ever be what they expected them to be.
So, in Kirk's mind, Lincoln would be hugely impressed with him.
Yes, all the time.
As he's created a person who fawns over him.
Yes.
And compares him to one of the the great military leaders.
It's quite clear as well that Kirk never watched the movie Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer.
I've not watched it myself.
There's a vampire killer. Either way.
Yeah,
whatever.
killer, I think, yeah. Any good?
No, I've not seen it.
Okay.
But he wasn't like that, I'm sure.
No, he was killing vampires.
Yeah. A man of war. Kirk then makes a sort of non sequitur remark about Earth going through a lot to achieve final peace.
This was this was the most ridiculous line in the entire episode. Yeah, he says he now understands what Earth must have went through to achieve final peace.
Because of their 5 minutes down in there.
5 minutes down there where he threw a couple of spears and boulders. What are you talking about? I say literally kids' games.
Yeah.
You threw some sticks and stones, and you think that's what Earth went through.
Yeah.
Get
Also,
yourself up to...
I've got a bone to pick with Rocky as well.
Oh, Rocky.
It's a fight to the death, but it ended because they ran away.
Yeah.
So do we assume they were killed?
Hopefully.
Oh, they weren't real to begin with, were they?
No.
Anyhow, Kirk now sees there is much to be done in the galaxy, and they leave.
Yeah, head off for another adventure.
Were you satisfied with the resolution?
No. No. I wasn't hugely satisfied. I didn't hate it. I think it was just another the season, the show is just petering out.
Yeah. Well, maybe there'll be a flare before the end.
Yeah, well, hopefully that would be good. But that's just another.
What did you think of Rocky?
Terrible. Didn't like him at all.
Did you find any of the historical avatars impressive?
No, I quite liked Lincoln. Just the performance.
What about the tactics? Whose tactics were you impressed
Tactics were all garbage. I mean, at least Genghis Khan was like, no, let's wait until we get an advantage and let's strike and kill them.
Well, that was Green.
Yeah, sorry, Green, whoever. Again, I didn't even take note of these people. It didn't mean anything to
Genghis
me.
Khan didn't speak.
No, the most famous one. The only famous one, really.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
Nope. An episode which I would never reach for, but if it was on, if it was
If you
channels
thought, I might watch this, you'd say, no, actually, I'll watch Arena instead. It's the same thing, but better.
Yeah, if I was up for that sort of episode, yeah.
Yeah. It originally aired on the 7th of March, 1969. Directed by Herschel Doherty. Fortunately, this was the second of his 2 shows, so you can go and listen to him being described in the podcast for Operation Annihilate if you want to learn more. The story for this episode was by Gene Roddenberry, who you may have heard of. Probably time we spoke about him a little bit.
I've been waiting for it.
Before working in television, Roddenberry served in the Air Force, flying combat missions in World War II and as a commercial pilot before becoming a police officer. His first solo TV show project was called The Lieutenant, which ran from 63 to 64 and featured future Star Trek actors including Leonard Nimoy, Nichelle Nichols, Walter Koenig and Gary Lockwood, and Majel Barrett as well, who he went on to marry. The show was somewhat controversially not renewed after its first season, perhaps in part due to the episode that the network refused to air on account of its dealing with racial prejudice, a decision which apparently led Roddenberry to consider less direct ways to address the same issues on television.
Did you call him Roddenberry there?
Roddenberry.
Okay.
It's just an accent, not a language. In 1964, he began work on Star Trek, firstly with the failed pilot episode The Cage, before the series was commissioned on the back of a second pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before. He later worked on the feature films, although some not as much as he would have liked, and the first sequel show, Star Trek The Next Generation. Away from Star Trek, Roddenberry had limited success with projects like the Questor tapes, Police Story, and Spectre, but had better luck posthumously with projects including Earth Final Conflict and Andromeda.
Gene Roddenberry's.
Yeah, people trading on his name. Yeah. He did win a Hugo Award and was given a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, as well as receiving 2 Emmy nominations, and he died in 1991 at the age of 70.
70, yeah. No age at all.
No. He'd been unwell, I think.
Yes.
Before that.
Yeah.
Lee Bergier played Abraham Lincoln. This was his only Star Trek episode, but he also appeared in series like Mission Impossible, Dynasty, and Murder, She Wrote. He died in 2007 at the age of 88. Barry Atwater played Surak. This was his only Star Trek appearance, but he also showed up in series like Bewitched, Rawhide, and Hawaii Five-0. He died in 1978 at the age of 60. Although he had terminal cancer at the time, he died after suffering a stroke.
A stroke of bad luck.
Mm-hmm. Philip Pine played Colonel Green. This was his only Star Trek appearance, but he also appeared in series like The Fugitive, Ironside, and Happy Days. He died in 2006 when he was 86. Carol Daniels played Zora. This was her only credited Star Trek role. She also appeared in a handful of other shows, including Grange Hill. But
what? What?
Yeah.
Grange Hill?
Yeah.
The British TV show?
Yeah.
When, what year? Don't know.
I don't know.
70s must have been, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You can go and look it out.
I will look at what was she doing? Was she a stunt woman?
She is primarily known as a stunt performer. She acted in Grange Hill.
She acted in Grange Hill?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Was she a teacher or something?
I presume an adult character.
Yeah, I mean, Grange Hill, for American audiences, it's a show set in high school, yeah. Teen angst and drugs and sex and all that type of, the usual sort of, not a Degrassi junior high type stuff. Quite cutting edge for some of it in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, so that was one of her acting jobs.
I need to look into that.
But like I say, she is primarily known as a stunt performer. She did stunts for shows like Murder, She Wrote, well known for its stunts.
Yes.
Desperate Housewives, and she did stunts for the Star Trek pilot The Cage.
Okay.
Nathan Jung played Genghis Khan. He's perhaps best known for his work in martial arts movies, including Big Trouble in Little China, Beverly Hills Ninja, and Darkman.
What about Showdown in Little Tokyo?
I don't think he was in that.
You sure?
I don't know for sure. I don't have his full IMDb in front of me.
Okay.
He also worked on TV shows like The A-Team, The New Adventures of Superman, and Starsky and Hutch. He died in 2021 at the age of 74.
Just this year.
Bob Heron played Kalis the Unforgettable.
Something fishy about him.
He too was primarily known for stunt work, including his Pike's double in The Cage.
Pike's quite fishy as well.
He also had an uncredited role in Charlie X, along with this appearance in Star Trek. He worked on shows like Airwolf, Father Dowling Investigates, and The X-Files, as well as movies like Batman Forever, LA Confidential, and Lethal Weapon 4. He also provided stunt work for one episode of Columbo, making him this week's connection.
What episode?
Exercise and Fatality.
Alright, I'm trying to think of
Milo Janis's double, presumably.
When they fell over with the weight, when they used the weight?
I'm not sure exactly what point.
Okay.
He also died in 2021 when he was 97.
Right.
This is the second encounter with a silicon-based life form after The Devil in the Dark, which was a good episode. Both silicon creatures were physically performed by Janos Prohaska. This is the last time we see Uhura in the series.
What?
It's also the last time we see a Klingon, and the last time we see a full Vulcan.
Really?
Yes.
Who will be missed? Who else is going to say, sorry, I've still...
There's nobody there. Nobody's seen anything.
Alright. I mean, how many more episodes do we have?
2.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Tiburon, where Zora is from, the one who was in Grange Hill, was also the home planet of Dr. Severin in The Way to Eden. Neither Zora nor Genghis Khan speak in the episode, which means they would have been paid significantly less than actors with dialogue.
Okay. Do you remember Mr. Bronson?
I never watched Green
Did
Show.
you
I
not?
used to hate it.
He was a really, really strict teacher.
I never saw the idea of coming home from school to watch folk at school.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy it. He was in Indiana Jones. He played, in fact, I think what's his name, Michael Schaefer, something like that. But he played Hitler in a lot of shows and movies. I think that was his...
visually similar to Hitler.
Not really, actually. But in Indiana Jones, he played he was Hitler in that.
Imagine being typecast as Hitler.
Yeah, I think he was at least. I think it was. He was a go-to Hitler guy. Need Hitler? Get him. I'm your man. He said.
So, a couple of costume notes, one of which I think you might enjoy. Scotty's kilt is the Scott tartan, which was developed by Sir Walter Scott in 1822.
There you go.
Colonel Green's uniform was later used by the character Mork in Happy Days and Mork and Mindy.
What was it? Okay.
Yeah. First choice for the role of Lincoln was actually Mark Leonard, who you will recall played the Romulan commander in Balance of Terror and Spock's father Sarek in Journey to Babel.
Mm-hmm.
He was unable to fill the role due to commitments for the series Here Come the Brides.
Normally, see, Lincoln, these historical figures are often, just like Hitler, there's often a guy who that's what he does.
Yeah.
He'll appear as Lincoln in lots of shows. The same with, not historical, but he plays there's guys that are basically doubles for Bogart and things like that. And that's how they make their living.
Well, that's one.
Marilyn Monroe's another one.
Who did she double for?
Norma Jean.
The song, the military song that was played when Lincoln came aboard the Enterprise, is the last original piece of music written for the show.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of international titles, the Italians went with Sfida all'ultimo sangue, which means challenge to the death. In Germany, it was Seit es Menschen gibt, which translates as since people have existed. Meanwhile, in Japan, they went for
Come on.
Mikakunen Wakuse no Genseki Ninjen, which apparently translates as the rock being on the unidentified planet.
Nah.
Next week, it's the 23rd episode and the penultimate episode of Season 3 and of the series, All Our Yesterdays, which features some time travel shenanigans.
Oh, that sounds good.
I think it is good, but we'll find out in the next few days.
We certainly shall. So until then,
Cheerio.
bye-bye.